Picture this. You're out for a nice walk, just enjoying the day, when suddenly your dog spots it, a puddle. And not just any puddle, but one that's been sitting in a hot parking lot for like 3 days. You see it happening, you try to stop them, but you are just a split second too slow. Your dog takes a massive, happy slurp, and then looks up at you with the completely serene expression of an animal that has absolutely no idea why you are suddenly panicking. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we are unpacking the fascinating, kind of hidden biology of our canine companions to answer a question that honestly plagues dog owners everywhere. Why on earth can they drink that and walk away totally fine?
Because, from the dog's perspective, that slurp was a perfectly reasonable decision. In fact, it was probably the highlight of their entire walk. And here is the craziest part of the whole thing. The dog is almost certainly fine. And I don't mean fine in the way that you'd be fine if you drank parking lot water, which is to say you'd be incredibly sick. I mean biologically, mechanistically fine. Your dog relies on a completely different set of ancestral biological defenses, refined over thousands of years in wild environments where clean water simply didn't exist. Section 1. The puddle and the mouth. Let's physically follow the path of that contaminated water right from the very start. To truly grasp this biological superpower, we've got to look at the whole sequence of events. It's a highly coordinated system. We're going to track the water through 4 distinct phases: the initial behavioral assessment, the first pass chemical defense in the mouth, the brutal kill zone of the stomach, and finally the colonization resistance waiting in the gut microbiome. Let's actually start before the water even enters the dog's body. We often see a dog sniffing a puddle and just think, oh, they're being curious. But it's actually a highly refined evolutionary behavioral defense strategy. Dogs actively seek out and investigate novel water sources. By assessing the smell, they're looking for specific microbial profiles that experienced outdoor dogs have learned to associate with problematic water. It's a built-in behavioral toolkit for assessing water quality. And it's a survival skill that modern humans, safely wrapped up in our treated municipal water, have completely lost. Once the dog actually goes for it and takes a drink, the water enters the mouth. And right here, we need to address a massive myth. You've definitely heard someone say that a dog's mouth is cleaner than a human's. Yeah, that is completely false. A dog's mouth is absolutely packed with bacteria. It's not cleaner at all. It is just differently contaminated. They host species-specific canine bacteria that don't typically establish themselves in human mouths, which is where the confusion comes from. However, what their saliva does have is a slightly different enzyme profile. Now, dog saliva isn't magic, but it does contain an enzyme called lysozyme, at slightly higher levels than we have. Lysozyme damages the cell walls of certain bacteria right at the point of entry. So, while this first-pass defense is real, it's actually quite modest. It definitely doesn't wipe out everything. To see the real heavy lifting, we need to travel further down. Section 2. The stomach acid kill zone. This is where the most dramatic, undeniable biological difference between humans and dogs resides. Look at this pH contrast. Stomach acid is measured on the pH scale, right? A lower number means it's more acidic. Human stomach acid typically sits somewhere between 1.5 and 3.5. That is already quite acidic and a great barrier for us. But a dog's stomach? It operates at a pH closer to 1.0. This makes their digestive tract incredibly, overwhelmingly hostile to incoming microorganisms like E. coli, salmonella, and various parasites that make contaminated water so dangerous in the first place. Just let that number sink in. 1. This highly acidic environment acts as a massive, ruthless kill zone. Most organisms are completely destroyed here before they ever even get a chance to reach the intestines. And this brilliant physiological adaptation is paired with another neat trick. Dogs generally pass food and water through their systems much faster than humans do. This faster transit time significantly shrinks the window of opportunity that any surviving pathogens have to interact with the gut lining and establish an infection.
But the stomach isn't a flawless filter. Some things are bound to get through. That brings us to Section 3, the gut microbiome defense.
This introduces a beautifully complex biological concept called colonization resistance. The dog's gut is absolutely packed with trillions of resident microorganisms. So, when those few surviving pathogens from the dirty puddle finally reach the intestines, they are looking for a place to attach and grow. But they can't. The space is literally fully booked. The resident microbial community is already occupying all the available ecological real estate and eating up all the resources. The bad bacteria? They just get pushed right out.
And this leads us to one of the most surprising insights in this entire explainer. When your dog drinks from varying outdoor water sources, their mucosal immunity is continuously being calibrated. This exposure actively maintains and broadens their microbial diversity. It's essentially a biological system update. So in a very real sense, that dirty puddle is a microbiome maintenance activity. By being exposed to the outdoors, their gut community becomes incredibly robust and remarkably strong.
So, how exactly did they get this incredible internal machinery? Section 4. The evolutionary history. Let's look at the survival of the fittest to understand the why.
Let's see how this builds across the ages. Dogs are descendants of wolves, right? And wolves are scavengers. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, wolves were eating carrion and drinking from stagnant pools near carcasses. The wolf that demanded a pristine, bubbling mountain stream? It died of thirst. The one that could handle a contaminated puddle? It survived. Fast forward thousands of years, we get proto-dogs hanging around human settlements eating refuse and waste. The relentless evolutionary selection pressure was always pointing in exactly one direction: handle the contamination or die. Modern dogs don't survive dirty water despite their biology. They survive strictly because of this intense evolutionary history.
But before we go declaring our dogs completely invincible, we definitely need a reality check. Section 5. Limits to the superpower. Because this biological shield has strict limits.
When it comes to bacteria like E. coli and Salmonella, the dog's defense level is phenomenally high. They process these brilliantly. For parasites like Giardia, their defense is moderate. They can get it, but they often clear it without treatment much better than a human would. But look at that bottom row. Against chemicals and toxins like heavy metals or agricultural runoff, their defense is exactly zero. Their ancient biological adaptations are completely useless against modern chemical threats.
Let's detail these specific vulnerabilities because this is absolutely critical for any pet owner to know. Cyanobacteria, commonly known as blue-green algae, produces a chemical toxin in summer lakes that can literally be fatal to dogs within hours. Their acid stomach provides zero protection here. Additionally, leptospirosis, a severe bacterial threat from wildlife urine, can easily bypass their defenses, which is exactly why we vaccinate against it. And finally, remember that the robust puddle drinker story really only applies to healthy adult dogs. Puppies, whose maternal antibodies are fading, and senior dogs with declining immune function are highly vulnerable. Please do not let them test those waters.
So, we've explored the dog's incredible abilities. Now for Section 6, why humans can't do it. This sterile water anomaly reveals something absolutely fascinating about our own biology.
We live in what we can call the sterile water anomaly. Modern humans in industrialized countries have pretty much completely removed microbial water contamination from our daily experience. And hey, don't get me wrong, this is a massive victory for public health. We eliminated life-threatening diseases like cholera and dysentery, but there is a hidden cost here. By relying exclusively on perfectly treated municipal water, we have traded away the continuous, low-level microbial exposure that actually builds and maintains a specific, informed immune memory.
Compare pre-modern humans to us today. Ancient humans drank from variable outdoor sources, just like dogs do. They had a similarly calibrated immune architecture, constantly encountering and learning from environmental pathogens. Today, if a modern human drinks from a lake, their immune system, completely lacking any specific memory of those organisms, responds slowly and non-specifically, leading directly to illness. In evolutionary terms, the dog drinking from the puddle is actually representing the historical baseline. We, the modern humans drinking perfectly sterile water every single day, are the true evolutionary anomalies.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to consider. Has our life-saving, sterile water infrastructure quietly cost us our ancestral evolutionary immune calibration? The biological potential to handle that dirty water still technically exists, buried deep in the human genome, placed there by tens of thousands of years of our ancestors drinking from rivers and ponds. But today, only one of the two of you walking down the street has actually kept that ancient calibration active and running. And as we've learned today in this explainer, it certainly isn't the one holding the leash.